Hi, today I thought I'd do a tutorial to show you how I put my legs onto my dolls. I'm just going to run through the things that you're going to need, so let's get started. First of all, of course, you're going to have your legs, doll, some sculptory, which is like this. It comes in like a little square. I bought this from Spotlight, and I've actually moulded it so it doesn't actually come looking like that. I've actually made that to look like that. We need some scissors and felt, which we're going to use to make a petticoat, some 2-minute super glue. I found this to be the best glue as it really gives a nice strong bond. So let's get started. This is actually what I use to make the bit in between the legs and the doll. It's called Super Sculptory. You can actually use another product called Flymo, which you can buy from Spotlight or any craft store. It's spelled F-I-M-O, and it's the type that we actually bake in the oven. The first thing we need to do is to take an amount off, or cut the small Flymo in half. And what I do is I actually roll it between my hands. It'll be a bit difficult at first, but it'll warm up and then you'll be able to actually sculpt it to what you need it to be. The next thing I do is I grab my legs and I just mould it to fit over my legs, sort of making it like you know, the top of the leg and the bottom of the doll. Just keep pushing and poking until you actually get what you need. Now, because these legs actually run on an angle outwards, I actually need to place the Flymo so it's actually straighter. Otherwise, if I went with the angle that my legs go at, my doll would actually fall over. Because what I need to do is to take the skirt that I'm actually going to put onto the doll, and I'm now going to gauge how long I actually need this piece to be here. So put your dress up to your legs and the clay and decide round about where you're going to cut. You can always modify if you've cut too much, put a bit back on, or if you haven't cut enough, cut a bit more off. So you can always do a bit of playing around with it. The next thing we need to do, I've actually done one that will actually fit onto my legs proper. Is to grab your doll. Now, I've put a lot of glue, not too much, but quite a bit inside the doll and around the outside of it. Just get a satay stick and rub it around on the inside of your doll. Then I've actually got a tissue and I've bunged the tissue up into the doll and just made it so there's a bit of a flat surface in there and a ridge where the tissue's gone up into the doll. The reason we do this is so that when we put glue on the top of our legs and in the doll, there's actually something for it to adhere to. Next thing we need to do is take your doll and actually pop her down onto the clay and just push her down. Take her off and you'll actually see that we're left with a ridge where the doll will actually sit on top of the clay, and we've got a, sort of like a blobby bit here which actually will go up inside the doll and glue to the inside of the doll. The next thing is to actually take this off, do it very gently, you don't want to muck it up, and then we're going to actually bake it in the oven. Now, the clay will actually come with instructions on what temperature to bake it at, but I'm going to say at 130 degrees Celsius or 275 degrees Fahrenheit for around 15 minutes for each 1/4 inch or 6mm width piece to depending on the thickness. Just keep an eye on it because you can overcook it, which I do quite often, but it's not really going to make a lot of difference. If you do, don't throw it away. We can still use it because we're actually going to cover it with some felt to make a petticoat. When I've got that done, I'll come back and we'll continue. I've now actually glued the legs and the doll and the clay together. Just make sure that your doll's nice and straight. If you find that you've got a little bit too much clay over, whether it be around the doll or the legs, you can always take to it with a Stanley knife or a little craft knife and just cut away. It's very easy to cut away just to make sure that it fits nice and snugly around your doll. The next step we're going to do is we're going to take a nice soft piece of felt in any colour that you want to use. Just think about what colour you want underneath your skirt, and I've actually put it around the doll and cut it so that it actually fits around the doll. I've cut these little wedges into the waist so that when it goes around the waist and we glue it, that they actually fit nicely around the waist. By doing the felt, it also acts like a little bit of a petticoat under the dress, but it actually hides all the goings on underneath and gives a nice presentation. I'm going to go ahead and glue this, and then I'll come back and show you how to put the skirt on. Here's a nice little petticoat that we've done with the felt, just using ordinary craft glue. I lathered the glue around where I wanted the waistband to be. I lathered the clay and a small part around the bottom of the leg. I put the felt around and I've cut off the excess, and it usually has to be cut off at an angle, and that just gives a nice little petticoat effect underneath the dress. When it comes to dressing your doll, you may find that you, like I've done here, I've stitched up half of the dress, because if you stitch the whole dress up, there's no way that you're going to be able to put the dress over the doll onto the legs, because the waist is much smaller. You may even find that you actually have to put the dress onto the doll and sew the dress on the doll. Just very nice neat little stitches down the seam of the dress. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to pop this skirt onto the doll, and we'll come back and have a look at the finished product. And here is our finished doll. This pattern is from Little People in Porcelain and is called Dorothy and Sophie. If you have any questions regarding this tutorial or any of the other tutorials, please feel free to contact me on my website Beading Bells.